Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids Podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. It means so much to me that you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time listening, we have just started a new segment on the show called Let's Talk About It. So in this fun part of the show, I'm going to ask 3 questions. Some might be silly, some might be imaginative, some might be deep and faith-filled. But all of these questions are designed to spark some great family conversations. So be sure to stick around to the end of the interview for the Let's Talk About It segment. I know your family is going to enjoy it. Well, I'm so excited because we are just a few episodes away from the 200th episode. That's so amazing to me. 200 episodes. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of friends. That's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of really corny jokes and dad jokes and knock-knock jokes, but all of that has been so fun, and I'm so glad that you've been along for the ride. We have some fun surprises planned for the 200th episode, so stay tuned this month and be sure to join our newsletter. Check out our social media, and you can join our newsletter, which is on collidekidspodcast.com, and there's a little pop-up window. You can sign up for the newsletter right there. Well, today we have something truly magical, and I mean that literally. Today, we're going to talk with David and Kylie Knight, a dynamic husband and wife duo who have spent over 20 years captivating audiences as Christian illusionists. But it's more than just jaw-dropping tricks and mind-blowing illusions. David and Kylie use their talents to share a powerful gospel message. So whether you're young or young at heart, their shows are full of comedy, audience participation, illusions, and bringing people closer to God. You guys are really going to enjoy some amazing stories and learning more about this incredible duo. So here is my conversation with today's guest, David and Kylie Knight. Well, David and Kylie Knight, I am so excited to have you guys on the Collide Kids Podcast.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Yes, we've met a few times at some different conferences, and I just love what you guys do. Would you just share a little bit to our listeners about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, we are David and Kylie Knight. We're a husband and wife Christian illusionist team. We travel all over the country, all over the world, really, performing for mostly churches and ministry organizations. And we've been married for 25 years.
Now, is it that you're both illusionists, or is it one is the assistant and one is the illusionist?
We really work as a team. I mean, I do play a little bit more of the traditional assistant role. I am bringing things on and off stage.
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes get into a box, like getting cut in half or switched down to nothing.
Wow.
But we really do work as a team.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you guys about this because I think this is so fun. But before we do that, because this is a show for kids, I always ask my guests to tell me a joke. So what have you got for us today?
You know, I was really thinking about this, and I tried really hard, and I could only come up with a joke about paper, but it's terrible.
It's terrible. I get it. Yeah, that's
terrible.
Good. I like that.
Yeah. So I'll try giving you a real joke. What did the bison say to his son when he left the ranch? Bye, son.
Oh, bye, son. That's good. I like that. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what gives you joy about being illusionist. Tell me about that a little bit.
Other than everything. Well, I love that we get to do what God has called us to do. He put this on our hearts back in 2007.
2007, yep.
When we started going and doing this together. I love that we get to travel together. I love that we get to work together as a team, as a husband and wife. I love sharing God's message everywhere we go. I love going different places and meeting different people at church. And I just pinch myself thinking, I get to do this? Wow, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
I echo all of that. And then on top of that, I mean, for me, this has been the dream since I was 12 years old, was to be a magician and illusionist and travel and perform. And so the fact that, like she said, God allowed us to have this and allows us to do this, and to see people's reaction to the show. I mean, most our audiences are very diverse. And so we get a lot of people who come. Sometimes it's just people who have had a really bad day. Like I'll never forget, there was a lady one time who came to our show, and afterwards her husband had passed away recently. And she says, I haven't smiled or laughed since he passed. And this is the first time that I've been able to do that. So thank you for that. So the fact that we got to give her that
moment of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a young man in Tennessee who, honestly, he'd been told he was worthless. And he heard our message about being created in God's image, and he came up to us and he said, I didn't realize that I had value until you told me that. And so you get all these great stories that are heartwarming and sweet and wonderful.
Responses to our message.
Yeah. And then you get the opportunity to blow people's minds and make them laugh. So what's not to love about it?
That sounds great. I want to do it. Can I try?
Come on.
Let's go. Well, okay. So you mentioned this was something that you've always wanted to do since you were 12. So can you give us the story of how you got started and how you realized that you were called to something like this?
Growing up, for me, it was always something performance. It started off as an actor, and then I wanted to be a musician. And then I was 12 years old, and I was in school, and I had to do a book report on a biography. And I found this book on Harry Houdini, who was an escape artist and magician. And I read his story and his life, and I said, that's what I want to do with my life. And so I gave up. I went to my music teachers the next day. I said, I'm done with music. I'm going to do magic from now on. They're like, what?
Wait, what?
So I started pursuing it, and got the chance to work with a lot of really great people. And then when I was 19, I went to a magic show by a guy named Andre Cole, who was an illusionist, but he was also a creator of magic. And so he would invent things for the big names in magic, David Copperfield, Siegfried and Roy at the time. He would create things for them or help them make things better. But he was also a committed Christian and an evangelist. And so he would share the gospel in his show. Yeah. And so that's actually how I came to know Christ. And then, when Kylie and I got together, God kind of made everything clear as to this is the path you're supposed to go down.
You'd also seen his show 3 times.
Yeah, I'd seen his show 3 times. And each time I did the pray to receive Christ, sent in my little card, and nothing had really changed in my life, mainly because I didn't have discipleship. I wasn't connected to a church. I didn't have Christians around me. And so it wasn't until the 3rd time, and I actually got to travel with him on the road, that I got to be discipled by him and the rest of the team, and got to understand what it actually meant to walk with Christ, that anything changed.
That's how you started growing in your faith?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think that's a big thing a lot of people miss out on. They might make a decision to follow Jesus. They might, walk the aisle, or they get baptized or something happens, but then there's no real life change because they need a church body. They need discipleship. They need someone that says, come along with me as we're going through this faith journey. And so I love that you got that while you're learning magic as well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Kylie, what about you? Was this something that you wanted to do when you were younger, or was it something that you found when you met David?
No, it wasn't even on my radar growing up. In fact, I was a dental assistant for a few years in Australia. That's where I was born and raised. And then came to America just to travel for a little bit, and we met and married. And so I sort of came along for the journey. I loved the stage growing up, though. I was part of school or church drama teams, so I did love it. So it fit in really well with what I enjoyed doing. But magic, no, I'd never even thought about it.
Well, that's good that you found it and found your new love, and then you discovered what God was calling you to do. And so I think that's so neat. What do you think that means? I feel like we've said that a few times. Can you define that a little bit? What does that mean to be called by God? How does that work?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a few times where I've heard God speaking to me directly. I mean, he uses many ways to speak to us. I mean, creation, God's word obviously is the most tangible way. You can pick up the Bible and read his word anytime, any day. He uses people, he uses an environment. There's so many different ways. But I remember a couple of times audibly hearing his voice. And one of those was coming to America, and I wanted to leave because I was really homesick. And God said, I'm not finished with you here yet. And so that was one time. Another time was telling us to take what we'd learned from different shows that we'd been part of and take it to the church. When he called us to this bus life, definitely, we both heard that one. He said, you're going to move full-time into a motorhome. So,
and then I think one of the other things that I distinctly remember was for a long time, our show for churches was just straight up entertainment. Like we just wanted to bring really good quality entertainment to the churches because especially at that time, church entertainment was not known for its quality. And so we wanted to bring something that was high quality, and we didn't really have a message with the show. It was just fun. And there was one day we were sitting in our own church service, and our pastor was delivering this message. And we'd been working on this routine that we wanted to do anyway, trying to figure out what our angle was going to be with it. And our pastor spoke this message, and we both turned to each other and said, That's it. That's what we're supposed to be sharing with people. Like God just kind of laid it out to us and said, do this. So
in essence, it's God speaking to us, isn't it?
Absolutely. I love that. And I think there, like you said, there's lots of different ways that God speaks to us. But when we really figure out what it is that we love to do, and when that fuses with who God's called us to be, amazing things happen. So I think this is so cool. Now, you just mentioned that you are living on a bus. I need to hear more about this because you guys are like, you live there full time. This is your house, right?
Yeah, this is what we're in right now.
Yeah, we live in a 45-foot tour bus. We have a 16-foot trailer attached to it with all of our magic equipment. And yeah, like she said, it truly is a God thing. He came to us, he spoke to each of us, and we came to each other one day and we said, God's been telling me something. And
yeah, me too.
And it was the same thing. And so we spent about a year and a half trying to figure out what that looked like. And that was another one of those instances where it's like, we learned so much about it because we know God had called us to it. And so often we think when we're called to something or when something's supposed to happen, we think it's supposed to be immediate. Like even starting this ministry, we moved out to Dallas in 2007 to start this ministry thinking, okay, God's calling us to it. It's just going to be straight and narrow the path. And that was not the case. Same thing with this bus, that there was a lot of twists and turns, but all those things set us up to help us find the place and help us find the right way, the right bus, the right time, the right price,
right.
Which we kept saying over and over to ourselves to be able to move into it. And so now it's this amazing story that if we had more time, I'd share with you the entire story. But it's remarkable to watch God provide the way he does.
I love that. And I love that you said it's not always immediate. Sometimes we have to just do the next thing and wait for God to come through or show us how to move forward in that. And so I love that you said that.
And it's not always easy.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. In fact, often it's even harder doing what he's called us to do. But he's always with us every step of the way, which is we've seen time and time again. It's been beautiful.
What are some things about the bus that you love that you weren't anticipating you would love?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Well, one thing is waking up and having probably a different view out your window almost every day. Like right now, we're at this camp in Texas and there's this lake out there. It's this quiet scenery. It's very peaceful at nighttime because there's nothing around. You can see all the stars at nighttime. But other days we might be parking on a Walmart parking lot. So you open the window and there's cars driving by and it's Walmart. So
yeah.
The bus causes a stir everywhere it goes. I mean, it's a big beast and it causes a stir, which is sometimes really great because people will see us and then we get to kind of talk to them. They're like, oh, your bus is amazing. What's going on? What do you guys do? And we get to tell the story about, what we're doing, what God's doing through us and how he, brought this whole thing about. And so I think that's one of the things that's really kind of surprised me. I didn't expect that we were going to have those kind of conversations as often as we do.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, just because your bus is amazing. They're like, what is this? And you get to share. It's not always on the stage, right, that we get to do ministry. I think a lot of people think that all ministry stuff happens on stages, but really it's those one-on-one things that make a huge impact. So, okay, so tell me what you don't or you didn't expect about the bus that you don't love or you're still getting used to. We'll say it that way. We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
Oh, that's great, Christen. We've got so many stories we can share.
The phrase that we use anytime somebody asks us about bus life is great when everything works, but something breaks every day.
Oh, no.
Like, Christen, we haven't had heat on our bus for about 3 months now. And it's been the winter time.
This is colder.
Thankfully, we've had space heaters and all to keep us warm. We discovered some leaks in our roof recently. So that's been a little interesting. There's always something fun going on.
Yeah. Just even pulling into this camp, that's a whole story.
We've had a lot of rain and we had to drive onto some grass and we sank.
We're 46,000 pounds. And we sank. And so thankfully, the people here are amazing, and they were able to come pull us out, and they got some tractors and backhoes and pulled us out. But
it was crazy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about your show. So you guys are Illusionists. What are some of the things that you do to make your show really exciting and joyful and all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we try to do is, so our background, Kylie kind of alluded to this earlier, but is in theater. We worked 7 years with another show that was the highest rated touring illusion show in the country for many years. And we got to be their team.
Going to performing arts centers, theaters, civic centers all around the world.
Yeah.
Some beautiful venues. Yeah.
So when God kind of told us he wanted us to take what we had learned, it was a lot of that. And so we try to really infuse like theater, and we try to make sure the show has a lot of ups and downs, and there's different, it's not like one note. It's not all comedy. It's not all, mentalism. It's not all danger. It's all, but you've got all these different various textures. Yeah. I mean, the other thing we do is we try to be really engaging with people. I mean, we
use some audience people.
Use a lot of audience people. We use a lot of video now. We're also incorporating more lights. We always say it's like a concert. We want it to be just a real full experience for people. So
for families.
That's
for
cool.
families, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the best performances, whether it's theater or illusion or whatever, it's when the person that's performing can read the room and connect with the audience. I think that's when it's the best.
Yeah. And that's tough sometimes. Like,
yeah,
and there's a lot of pressure to make sure you get those things right. I mean, thankfully we get moments. Just the other night, we had a moment where we bring this kid up on stage, and afterwards everybody's like, you chose the exact perfect person for that effect. And all I can say is that was God. Like I let him direct me where I'm going to go. But we get that a lot. Like we're like, we get the right person and we help interact with the audience in the right way. So
do you ever make mistakes? Like, do you ever mess up and like a trick falls apart or something happens?
I always think it's funny when people ask that question.
They love that question. They love that question.
Not really. We've always got backups where we plan ahead. We plan for situations. So even if something doesn't go exactly how it's meant to, we have a plan for how to recover so the audience doesn't even know.
That's good. The show must go on, right?
The show goes on.
Exactly.
That's right. That's good. And then you said too earlier that you really felt like God wanted you to put this message in there about being made in his image. That was like the message you wanted to convey through your show. How do you do that? How do you convey that message while you're doing illusions?
Most of the show is still just a ton of fun. It's all those pieces, all those elements of getting the right rapport with the audience, all because we want to get them to a place where we've earned the right to speak something into their lives. And so our message really comes in at the end, and it's a really pretty effect that we do where we make it snow. And we talk about the uniqueness of every snowflake and how that relates to the uniqueness of each one of us. It still keeps it in our brand because it's very theatrical. It's very, the scripting is beautiful. The lighting, the music, and everything kind of blends up into this moment. And it's one of those things where I'm so thankful that God gave us this. Mainly because, like I said, I came to know Christ at a magic show, and I had kind of thought that I had to share the gospel the same way I had learned the gospel. And I tried doing it. Like I tried doing my mentor's exact same presentation, and it was fine, but it wasn't me, and it wasn't what God wanted to share through me. And so when he gave us this message that really fits with us, it made a lot more sense.
Yeah. And it goes back to Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then they're all good. But then he made mankind in his image, male and female. He created them. And he said they were very good, very, very good. I think it's an important message that we have to understand how beautiful we are because the creator of the universe made us, intentionally made us. And that should give us purpose just from there.
The other thing that I love about this message that we get to share is that it's a great gospel message. Like, I think it's a perfect starting point for people to learn about their uniqueness. The other thing is let's be honest, so many people these days are dealing with anxiety and depression and concerns about who I am, why am I here, what's going on. So let's start with the base. Let's start with who you are, why you're here, and what you're created for. And
that is your identity.
That is your identity. And all those other things, you learn to kind of siphon out because you go back to the basics of it.
It's like somebody might say some mean things about you, and you look, does the Bible say that about you? No, so it's not true. Cancel that out. What does God
throw it out?
Me? Yeah, get rid of it.
That's good. And I think you're right. Like, there's so many different people that struggle with their identity in many different ways. And I remember hearing about a child recently who was really struggling, and his inner thoughts, he was sharing with someone, was just like, I feel like God made a mistake. And so just to be able to say, like, God created you for a purpose. He created you uniquely, and God doesn't make mistakes. So there's no way you're a mistake. And so I hope someone listening today hears that from your message and from what we're talking about, that there's no mistakes, that God, everything that he does is for a purpose, just like the snowflakes that you guys create in your show. God makes each one unique and special. And I think that's so good for people to hear that. I know you're not going to tell me any secrets about your tricks, but let's say for someone who wants to learn a magic trick, where would they get started? How would they do that?
So I'm old school. I learned in the library. 793.8 is the Dewey Decimal number for magic.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm that old school. But I would encourage people to go to the library. But there's also, like, depending on the city you're in, there's a lot of magic clubs, or you can find things online. There's a lot of YouTube stuff out there, which can be good, but you have to be careful because not all of it's great.
We do sell some magic kits at our show. We sell some magic
kits. That's true. You could go to our website.
There you go. And get started.
Would you guys like to do a magic trick?
Oh, yes. I would love that.
Okay, cool. And the cool thing is, like, even if you're just listening, you can follow along with this.
Okay.
So a lot of people talk about, magic that you do with your hands. I think that's great stuff, but we're through the screen, or you're listening to the headphones, and so I can't really do anything with your hands, but I can get you to do something with your hands. All right?
Okay.
So here's what I want you to do. Hold up your right hand and face it towards you. So the palm is facing you. Okay?
Okay.
Very good. All right. Now, what you're going to do, in a moment, I'm going to have you move around the fingers on your hand. All right? I want you to start off by pointing to your pinky finger. Okay, so that's your little finger, this one on the left. Yep. And in a moment, you're going to make moves. Now, a move is when you move from one finger to the next, and it has to be to the nearest finger. So you can't, like, jump fingers. You have to go to the nearest finger. But when I tell you to make moves, you can move forwards, you can move backwards, you can change your mind, you can go any direction you want. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
I'm going to move the microphone. Okay.
All right. So start off pointing at your pinky finger. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to make 5 moves. Okay. So I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Starting from pinky. Okay.
Oh, got
make
it.
One,
One,
Two,
two, three,
3,
4,
5.
5.
There you
Okay.
go.
There
Okay,
you go.
cool. All right.
I didn't know there'd be math involved. Okay.
I know. It's my own fault. Yeah, I should. Math is hard. Okay. Now, now, here's what's really cool, though. That even though we've done this, I don't think that anybody who's listening or watching this is on their pinky. So fold down your pinky a little bit so you can't get to that one. And I also don't think anybody's on their thumb. So fold down your thumb. So you should be holding up 3 fingers at this point. Okay. Now you can't go back to the pinky or the thumb. All right. You can only use the fingers that you're on. So I want you to make one move. Go ahead and do that now. Make one move.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Now I don't think that anybody is on the ring finger. So curl down your ring finger. Okay. So you should be holding up 2 fingers now. Make one more move. And I believe that everybody at this point should be on their index finger.
Oh, wow. Okay. So everybody should be on the same finger as me.
Exactly.
Even
That's
though they
right.
made
Even though they made
moves.
different choices, different moves along the way.
Yep.
That's really cool. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story. And how can our listeners find out about your magic kits and all the things that you guys are doing?
Sure. They can go to nightillusions.com. So that's KNIGHTILLUSIONS.com. And you can learn all about our ministry. And then at the bottom of the page, there's a place where you can look at our shop. You can also learn about so we recently teamed up with this organization called True Play. And what they are is Christian-based video game alternative. So it's a great platform with a bunch of different games that are not only fun and high quality, and they're made by people who make like Pixar and Xbox 360 games,
Really high quality
games. But they're also teaching biblical lessons along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to learn a lot of Bible lessons. There's a lot of quotes and scriptures and things like that. And if you go to our link on our website, there's also a code where you can get a free week, so you can try it out, and then 20% off a subscription if you decide to join. So.
Very cool. I know a lot of parents are looking that up right now because that sounds like a great alternative for all the video games.
Fun.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy the games.
Cool. Yeah. It is mostly for ages like 4 to 12. That's their target audience.
Okay.
But I think any age enjoyed it.
Hey, before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So I'll let you each go. Tell me a memory from your childhood. I'd love to hear it.
So I was born and raised in Australia. All the way. You may hear a little bit of my southern accent coming out sometimes.
You do. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. But there we have some of the most beautiful beaches, and I love the beach. And I remember there was one beach called Squeaky Beach, and that's because the sand was so soft. You walk with your feet, and as you're stepping on the sand, it squeaks. It is so soft
cool.
and crazy. Yeah. So that's one memory I have. Just Squeaky Beach.
On Squeaky Beach. That's so cute. What a cute name.
Yes, I know.
I don't know if this is a good story or not, but it's kind of connected to your beach story. So when I was, I must have been about 9 or 10, my parents took me on a vacation to Hawaii. Not a bad place to go. And my mom had bought me this very Hawaiian outfit, like, floral shirt, matching pants and a hat, the whole bit. And we were going to go to a luau that night. My dad was going to meet us there. And before we went to the luau, my mom and I went walking down by the ocean. And my mom said, "No, make sure you don't get your outfit wet because it's brand new." And
famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow I just kept making my way further and further out into the ocean and got just totally drenched. And my mom was so mad at me. But there you go.
That's awesome.
No
She knew it was
that
going to
before.
happen. That's right.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. Tell us again your website so our listeners can check you guys out and follow you.
Night Illusions, KNIGHTILLUSIONS.com.
And you can find us on socials at the same @Night Illusions.
All right. Well, we'll definitely make sure to put those links in our show notes so our listeners can check you guys out. Thank you guys for being here. This was so fun. I loved it.
Thank you. You're fantastic.
We love you.
They they are such a fun couple. I love that I got to talk to them today. And how cool was it that we all got to do a magic trick together, right? You got to do a little magic yourself. So that's really cool, whether you're listening in or if you want to go to the YouTube channel and watch me figure out how to count on my hands, you can do that as well. I always love hearing people share stories of how God put something on their heart or taught them something that they were passionate about when they were a kid. And that's a part of David and Kylie's story. They get to do magic and perform as a way to help others learn about God. I thought it was really interesting how David shared that even though he had prayed to receive Christ, it wasn't until he was able to spend time with that magician that led him to the Lord. And then he was able to be discipled. And that's when his faith began to grow. I think that's why it's so important that we are around other believers in church and in our communities and in our family so that we can grow in our faith just like David did. And Kylie shared that God speaks to us in many different ways. I think that's so important to learn about that, how God can speak to us through the Bible, through creation, being outside and seeing the amazing things God's made. God uses people like pastors and leaders and friends and family to speak to us. He uses special circumstances to guide us and help us make good decisions. He even speaks to us directly, just like he did with David and Kylie, to tell them what he wanted them to do with their lives and what they were called to do. Or maybe you might feel a strong passion or impression in your heart to do something to follow him. There's so many ways that God can speak to us, and I love learning more about that. And I love that the message of David and Kylie's show is that we are all created by God in God's image for a purpose. It's so important for us to all go back to the basics, like he said, and learn who we are, why we're here, and what we are created for. Remember, you are not a mistake. God created you for a purpose. Well, if you'd like to learn more about David and Kylie and their shows and their magic kit and all the fun things they have going on, go to their website, knigtillusions.com, K-N-I-G-H-T. And we'll be sure to have the website link in the show notes so you can check that out on our website and on your podcast app show notes as well. Well, now it's time for our family conversation time. So let's talk about it. Here's 3 questions that you can discuss with your family. These will be fun conversations for you to have. If you'd like to pause between each question, you can. Or if you want to listen to all 3 and then talk about them later on in the day or around the dinner table later this week, I think that would be a really fun idea. Okay, here's the 3 questions. Number 1. Think about a time you have seen an illusionist perform or an amazing magic show. What is your favorite trick or part of the show that magicians do? Like what's the thing that you love the most that a magician does? All right, number 2. The Bible says that we are all created in the image of God. What do you think it means to be made in God's image? And number 3, can you think of a time when you felt like God was speaking to you? How did he speak to you and how did it make you feel? Well, I hope those questions give you something fun to talk about with your family. Now, if you're a veteran of the show, if you've listened before, you know that usually right about now, we have the kids only segment. Now, we did not get rid of the kids only segment. We have moved it to our YouTube channel. So if you still want to be on the show to share a Bible verse or a joke or a song, or you want to ask a question or you want to do something silly, you can do all of that. You'll be featured on the YouTube version of one of the episodes coming up. So be sure to head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and learn more about how you can send me those videos and be on the next episode. And while you're at the website, be sure to sign up for the monthly newsletter. Now, if you're on social media, I would love for you to follow us on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast and on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod, and share today's episode with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Collide Kids Podcast. That's pretty easy to remember, where you can watch the full-length interview for today's episode. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, I would really appreciate if you would leave a rating and review for the show. When you do that, it really does help other people find out about the show. And I always love reading about what you think and what you liked about it. So be sure to send me those and leave those rating and review whatever podcast app you're using. If you want to support the podcast with no extra cost to you, you can shop on Amazon through our affiliate link. So head to collidekidspodcast.com and click the Amazon icon and you just go shopping. It's no cost to you, and a small portion of your purchase helps keep the show going. So that's just a fun new way to help support the show. You can also share this episode with friends and family and tell them why you like to listen. And anytime you think about it, I always appreciate your prayer support as well as we continue this ministry. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much for listening today. And in case no one has told you, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so very much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between, and all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.